I'm Adriana, 28, standing here in a designer gown that costs more than most people's annual salaries, fingers curled around a microphone that's about to change everything. 6 months ago, my parents forced me to marry Masuna man they claimed would teach me humility. It's where you belong after what you did. My mother, Veronica, spat during my dress fitting. What they didn't know, Mason's bank account made our family's fortune look like pocket change. And tonight, as I step up to this mic at their lavish anniversary gala, their perfect world is about to implode. Before I explain how I brought the mighty Thompsons to their knees, tell me, where are you watching from? Hit like and subscribe if you've ever been doubted by the people who should have backed you most. Being Adriana Thompson meant never questioning comfort. Our colonial mansion in Boston's elite Beacon Hill screamed old money and polished ambition. My father, Raymond, turned a modest real estate firm into Thompson Enterprises, a powerhouse, stretching the entire East Coast. My mother ran our social climb like a military campaign, from the glossy Steinway in our sunroom to the marble-floored entryway where Boston's elite gathered each Christmas. Every inch of our home whispered status. By 7, I played Chopin. By 9, I could set a 5-course table. And before middle school, I could read a room like a seasoned politician. Shoulders back, Adriana, my mother would whisper, a manicured nail digging between my shoulder blades at charity galas. Thompson, women don't slouch. My wardrobe overflowed with custom couture. My vanity was lined with imported skincare in perfect rows. My schedule packed with horseback lessons, etiquette training, and volunteer work that just happened to photograph well. Kayla, my little sister, followed 5 years behind like a shadow. She watched everything I did, mimicking my tone, borrowing my clothes, and begging for makeup tutorials from the edge of my sink. Mom says I'll never be as elegant as you, but I want to try. Our mother loved to pit us against each other, praising one, undermining the other. We weren't sisters, we were rivals, and still, under the glossy armor, we shared scars. Both daughters of Veronica Thompson. Then there was Eleanor Whitfield, mother's closest friend and self-appointed moral compass. She monitored me like an undercover agent, filing social reports. Back to Veronica. Adriana darling, she'd croon at every gala, sidling up with a glass of champagne. The boy you were chatting with, his family, owns those discount furniture stores, right? How adventurous of you. Until I was 26, I did everything right. Princeton, undergrad, Wharton, MBA, a future at father's company, the right friends, the right boyfriends, the right weight. Then I dared to want something for myself. A boutique. A boutique. My father blinked at my proposal. We're developers, not shopkeepers. It's curated fashion, Dad. I found a market gap. There's nothing like it in Boston. I tried. Fine. He cut me off, already glancing back at his paper. I'll fund it. Consider it an expensive lesson. For 3 breathtaking months, Atelier Adriana was a success. Clean lines, Italian lighting, and racks of emerging designers drew influencers and fashion editors like bees to honey. I handled creative and client relationships while Rebecca, my business partner, ran logistics. Until the call came. The accounts are empty, Miss Thompson, and vendors are owed nearly $300,000. Rebecca had vanished. Fake records. Stolen funds. Turns out, she'd pulled this con before. The Boston Globe printed it on page 6. Society ladies whispered over cocktails. Father's associates offered empty sympathy and hidden smirks. Your recklessness has disgraced us, my father bellowed at dinner. Raymond, your blood pressure, my mother warned, before fixing me with a frostbite glare. You embarrassed us. You embarrassed him. Within days, I was evicted from my apartment, technically theirs. My cards cancelled. My Mercedes gone, replaced by a rusty Honda. Suitable transportation for someone learning fiscal discipline, Mother said sweetly. Every family event became a dig. Every cousin's minor achievement, a lecture in knowing your place. Our name had survived scandals before Uncle Harrison's poker debts, Dad's early divorce, but my failure, it was the ultimate shame. 6 months of purgatory followed. I applied everywhere, magazines, fashion houses, but our name now locked doors. My designer wardrobe gathered dust. I shuffled around in carefully selected appropriate outfits that Mother approved. The hardest part, it wasn't the loss of luxury, it was losing myself. The confident, educated woman with ambition had become a cautionary tale. Cocktail chatter, the family failure. Then came the Tuesday intervention. I walked into the living room and found Dad in his leather chair, Mom beside him, and a man in a gray suit standing by the fireplace. "Sit down, Adriana," my father said, face flushed. "Your father and I have come to a decision," Mother announced in her special, ice-coated voice. "This can't go on. I've applied for 37 jobs," I snapped, frustrated. "All dead ends, thanks to your reputation. And demonstrated no ability to live independently," she cut in. "We've found a solution." Father cleared his throat. "Theodore Parker's son, Mason, is seeking a wife. He's agreed to overlook your situation." I blinked. The stranger stepped forward, not a lawyer, not a business partner. "The solution, Mason Parker," he said, offering his hand. Average height, unremarkable face, bland suit, basic watch. "You can't be serious," I scoffed, expecting a laugh. "I'm not marrying a stranger over a business mistake." "This isn't up for debate," Mother said. "You'll marry Mason. He's been incredibly generous given your predicament. In return, you'll get an apartment and a junior job at the company. And if I refuse," Father's jaw tightened, "then you'll leave this house with only your personal belongings, no connections, no references, and no financial support. It's your decision." "Your father's heart can't take more stress," Mother added, her voice laced with guilt that pressed down harder than any threat. I bolted from the room and made my way to Kayla's bedroom. My 23-year-old sister sat cross-legged on her bed, her face confirming what I feared she already knew. "They've been setting this up for weeks," she admitted, twisting her graduation ring. "This isn't about punishing you anymore, Adri. It's about managing the story." "What story?" "If you marry him and take a humble job, they get to spin it like a redemption arc. The wild daughter who came back home, learned discipline, and married a boring, safe lawyer. Neat little narrative for their cocktail friends." "Who even is he?" "Some financial consultant at a small firm. Dad's lawyer says he's reliable. Mom likes that he's forgettable. Won't shake the family image, but still respectable enough." 3 days later, I sat across from Mason at a mediocre restaurant for an arranged dinner. He showed up in a Honda Civic that looked like a sibling to my forced downgrade, and wore the same forgettable suit as before. After the meal, he offered to show me his apartment, a third-floor walk-up in a gentrifying neighborhood. Plain furniture, sparse decor, and a shelf of worn classic novels. Nothing vibrant, nothing alive. "I know this isn't ideal," he said, watching me scan his lifeless space, "but maybe we could make it work. Something functional." "Functional," I echoed. "That's your big pitch for marrying a stranger." "Would it be better if I lied?" he replied, unfazed. "We both know this isn't about love, it's about practical needs. So what's your need?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. "Excuse me," he said, disappearing into a back room. Behind the door, his voice shifted sharper, more commanding. He wasn't as simple as he looked. In desperation, I reached out to Tyler Reed, my ex, from business school. We'd dated for 2 years before his job took him to Chicago. He had recently returned to Boston and had checked in a few times since my boutique imploded. We met at a quiet bar, safely out of my family's social radius. Tyler looked impeccable as always, custom suit, Rolex catching the light as he stirred his Manhattan. "This whole setup is ridiculous," he said after hearing my story. "Your parents can't be serious. They're using Dad's heart issues like a leash." I replied, bitter. He paused, considering. "What if you had another option? Someone your parents used to approve of? Someone familiar?" Hope flickered. "You'd do that?" His expression changed, polished, professional. "I've always cared about you, Adriana, and aligning with your family wouldn't hurt my career. We had something good once. Maybe this is a new opportunity." His words landed like cold steel. Not, "I love you, but your name has value." Not, "Let me help, but this could be mutually beneficial." I walked out, heels digging into my feet, each step driving the realization deeper. Without my last name, even love became a transaction. The final straw came at my wedding dress fitting. Mother chose a dull, ivory sheath, tastefully plain, intentionally forgettable. "The Parker boy is making a sacrifice," she said, motioning the seamstress to cinch the waist. "Be thankful someone would still have you." I looked into the mirror and saw a woman fading. Not a bride, just a well-dressed pawn trapped in a narrative I never wrote. Wedding day arrived with cruelly perfect weather. Mother organized a modest ceremony in our garden, downsized from the 300 guests. Affair she'd once envisioned. Nothing flashy under the circumstances, she said to the planner, clearly for my benefit. This is about values now. I floated through the morning in a fog. Stylists concealed my exhaustion, pinned my hair in a demure bun. The simple gown clung to me like an apology. You look appropriate, Mother said, fastening a single strand of pearls. Smile for the camera. Appearances still count. Father's grip on my arm as he walked me down the aisle felt less like support, more like enforcement. Only 50 guests watched, reduced from hundreds. Some pitied, some judged. Eleanor Whitfield dabbed at invisible tears while gossiping with her neighbor. Jessica, my college roommate, had declined the invite but posted vacation selfies from Bora. Even the pastor's homily came with a sting, subtle nods to humility, finding purpose, and accepting one's station. Mason waited at the altar, strangely steady. His suit was a slight upgrade, but still forgettable. When I reached him, he squeezed my hand. Just breathe, he whispered, and for a moment, his calm grounded me in the madness. The reception blurred past me, forced smiles, insincere congratulations. Marriage will settle you, cooed cousin Margaret. Not all women are cut out for business. Seems like a stable guy, said Dad's golf buddy, sounding like he was reviewing an appliance. Mason's side of the guest list included just 5 people. No luxury gowns or heirlooms, just quiet dignity. A silver-haired woman lifted her glass toward me, a silent, private toast that felt more sincere than any speech. Our wedding gifts matched my new status: practical appliances, modest decor, no luxury brands. Mother's centerpiece gift presented, like a royal decree, was the deed to an apartment and entry-level job contracts at the family firm. Appropriate roles, Father said. Mason in finance, you in admin. It suits your skill set. We left in Mason's Civic, not a Rolls-Royce. No exotic honeymoon. Just a weekend in the Berkshires before starting our low-tier lives in the Thompson machine. The apartment, our wedding prize, was a 3rd-floor unit in a converted factory in a still transitioning area. 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and furniture hand-picked for its inability to offend. Twin beds in the master suite. You can push them together when you're ready, Mother had said with thin-lipped diplomacy. Home sweet home, Mason said without irony, setting down our bags. This isn't a home, I muttered, scanning the bland beige living room. It's a glorified waiting room. The next morning hit like a hangover reality. Uncertain, I tried to figure out the coffee maker, spilled half a carton of oat milk, and stared at cleaning supplies like they were part of a science kit. Turns out groceries don't stock themselves and bathrooms don't clean on command. Mason.com, as ever, found me peering helplessly into the fridge. I can teach you how to make a basic grocery list, he offered. Why aren't you more mad about all this? I snapped, waving a hand around our underwhelming apartment. You had to marry someone you barely know and move into this beige nightmare. He shrugged. I've had less. And no one forced me into this, I agreed. His tone held something deeper, something I couldn't quite name. We found a rhythm, however awkward. Mason left early every morning for his job, financial consultant, officially returning to find me stumbling through mine. I was an admin at Thompson Enterprises, a glorified coffee runner with a fancy last name, client name, not date. Jennifer, my supervisor, instructed, her smug tone dripping with satisfaction. Apparently, correcting a Thompson brought her deep joy. Weekends, Mason disappeared into mysterious business meetings. His home office was always locked. The way he carried himself in phone calls, more commanding, more executive than his role suggested, didn't match the image he projected. The packages he received were swiftly hidden. It didn't add up. A month in, Kayla surprised me with a bottle of wine and sisterly empathy. This place actually has charm, she offered, scanning the apartment. It's real. It has cracked ceilings and temperamental plumbing. We laughed, pouring generous glasses of wine. Mason's not what I expected, she said. You thought he'd be weird and desperate. I thought he'd be dull. But he reminds me of Dad before the empire. Focused, quiet, watching everything. Mason came home with takeout from a fancy Thai spot that should have been out of budget. Life's too short for bad pad Thai, he said with a shrug. The 3 of us built a bookshelf that night. It promptly collapsed thanks to my misaligned screws. I believe that's what engineers call a catastrophic structural failure, he said, deadpan. I laughed, really laughed for the first time. In months later, After Kayla left, we lingered over coffee and fortune cookies. Thanks for being kind to her, I said. She's stuck in the middle of all this. She sees you more clearly than your parents do, he replied, cracking his cookie. She sees your strength. What strength? I'm living in a staged marriage, in an apartment decorated with leftovers from our summer house. He looked at me seriously. The strength to stay standing when everything you thought you were is gone. Most people would have broken. Something shifted that night. Not love. Not yet. But respect, maybe understanding. I still slept in a separate twin bed, still questioned his phone calls, still hated what life had become, but Mason Parker started to feel like a person, not a punishment. 6 months in, I woke one night to an empty room. Not unusual, his mysterious calls often pulled him away, but exhaustion from a humiliating day at work overwhelmed my usual boundaries. I followed his voice to the office. The door, normally locked, opened. What I saw stunned me. Inside was a setup no junior analyst could afford: 3 massive monitors, a Bloomberg terminal, and financial data that looked like the Matrix for the rich. Mason, headset on, moved between screens with practiced precision. The Singapore deal must close before market open. Legal needs to finalize docs for my signature. Wilson can handle Prisu's standard language on Synergy. He turned and saw me, mid-sentence. I'll wrap the rest in the morning. Good night. He ended the call and removed his headset, facing me as I stood there in pajama pants and disbelief. You're not some mid-level finance guy, I said. No, he replied calmly. I'm not. Then who the hell did I marry? He gestured to the chair across from his desk. I sat. He opened a drawer and pulled out a 2-year-old business magazine, flipping it to a marked article. Read, he said. The headline, The Invisible Billionaire, Aurora Investments, Elusive, CEO. The article profiled a private equity giant known for swallowing up innovation firms and making power plays across continents. Its reclusive CEO, known only by initials MP, had built the company from nothing. No photos, no interviews, just results. MP, I whispered. Mason Parker, he confirmed, founder and CEO, net worth $4.2 billion. My brain scrambled, grabbing pieces of headlines and rumor stories I'd dismissed as irrelevant noise. Whispers about the mystery mogul who beat the old money boys at their own game. Why the secrecy? Why live like ... this? I value authenticity, he said. I didn't grow up with privilege. Chicago working class, state college. I built Aurora from scratch. The richer I became, the faker people got. Everyone wants something: status, access. Hiding my identity keeps me grounded. He began, pacing, energized. This life living simply privately, it's the only way I can trust what's real. Then, why marry me? I asked. Was this some rich guy experiment? His face grew serious. Your family was on my radar through business channels. When Theodore approached me, I saw an opportunity to assess the Thompsons up close. Rage lit up inside me. I was a due diligence project. At first, he admitted. But then I saw something else: a woman, stripped of her safety net, trying to find herself. And I admired that. You admired my crash and burn. Your survival, he corrected. Your failure wasn't incompetence. It was sabotage. That stopped me. What do you mean? He tapped a few keys. Files appeared on screen. Rebecca Collins, he said. 3 aliases. Same embezzlement pattern. He brought up another window. Also, your mother's foundation made a generous donation to a nonprofit tied to Rebecca. 2 weeks before she approached you. Mason said, tapping the screen. Your mother's foundation made that donation. That's just a coincidence, I protested, even as dread coiled in my gut. Maybe. But this isn't. He revealed bank statements clear, direct links between shell accounts and Rebecca's payments. Your mother created the perfect conditions for your failure, Adriana, he said softly. She made sure you would fall, and then she and your father swooped in as the benevolent rescuers. The floor tilted beneath me as 6 months of shame and self-blame crumbled under the weight of betrayal. But ... why? Control, Mason said. You were succeeding. On your own. Building something outside the Thompson name. For someone like your mother, that's a threat. I pressed my fingers to my temples, trying to absorb it all. How long have you known? I suspected before the arrangement, he admitted. I confirmed it 3 months ago. Why didn't you tell me? His expression softened. Because you needed to rediscover your own power first. Handing you the truth without strength to use it would have just deepened the wound. And now, that depends. What do you want? Revenge? Peace? To disappear? The choice is yours. It struck me hard that this was the first time anyone had asked what I wanted without making assumptions. I want justice, I said finally. I want my life back. Not the version they chose for me. Something real. Mason nodded. I can help you with that, if you'll let me. Why? I asked. What do you get out of this? His eyes didn't flinch. A partner. Someone who sees me, not the money, not the myth. Someone who knows both worlds and still chooses truth. That sounds dangerously close to a real marriage. Maybe. It could be, he said, a rare note of uncertainty in his voice that made him seem ... human. Starting over, I said. No lies, no power plays, just honesty. That night, for the first time, we pushed the twin beds together, not for romance, but solidarity. Facing each other in the dark, we shed the characters we'd been performing. Mason told me about his single mother, the houses she cleaned, the scholarships that barely covered tuition, about the algorithm he coded in his dorm room that laid the groundwork for Aurora. I opened up about my own upbringing, conditional affection, punishing expectations, and a real love for fashion that my parents dismissed as a silly distraction. I never wanted their empire, I said. I just wanted to build something beautiful and useful, something mine. You still can, Mason said, and we'll clear your name along the way. In the morning, we looked at each other, not as strangers forced together, but as partners choosing to stand side by side. He extended his hand, his smile warm but sharp with purpose. Partners, I took his hand. Partners. We started with knowledge. Mason cleared his calendar for 2 weeks and turned our living room into a command center. Whiteboards covered the walls. Laptops replaced centerpieces. Meals came in bags from the best restaurants in town. Step 1, he said, is getting to the truth of what happened, not your parents' version, not the press, yours. He brought in Grace Lopez, the striking woman from our wedding, Aurora's chief strategic officer, and Mason's mentor. Your model was solid, she said, scanning my old boutique plans. Your eye for emerging designers was ahead of the curve. With the right support, you'd have turned a profit within 18 months. That objective validation hit a place in me that had been raw for so long, I didn't know how much it had bled. My failure wasn't incompetence, it was sabotage. Mason walked me through finance, concepts, investments, risk metrics, market timing. You have sharp instincts, he said one evening after I picked apart a dummy proposal. You just need the technical scaffolding. Grace gave me assignments dissecting reports, identifying manipulation, tracing fraudulent transactions. Every success rewired something broken. Rebecca Collins, we found, was a serial aliases, Rachel Carter, Renee Campbell, Rita Chambers. Same scam, every time earned trust, embezzle funds, vanished. She never should have made it past background checks, Mason said, pulling up sealed court records. Someone buried those red flags. The someone was William Harrisdad's right-hand man. He's been your father's fixer for decades, Grace explained. When the company needs something handled, William handles it. Our investigation revealed offshore accounts connecting William to Rebecca's shady transfers from Mother's Charitable Foundation. Your mom financed the hit job, Mason said, laying out the timeline. William found Rebecca, covered her tracks, and let the story unfold exactly as planned. The sabotage wasn't just malicious, it was strategic. Why not just say no to funding the boutique? I asked one night, stunned by the scale of deceit. Because this way, Grace said, they discredited you publicly, made it seem like you needed them. It painted their manipulation as kindness, control through humiliation, Mason added. They broke your confidence so thoroughly that a modest marriage seemed like mercy, not control. Then came the perfect opportunity. Mother's assistant called with a summons. Your presence is requested at the Thompson 35th anniversary gala. Black tie, 7 p.m., Seasons Ballroom. I hung up and looked at Mason, smiling for the first time in months. We've just been handed the perfect stage. We got to work. Mason invited key Aurora executives and select journalists. He gained discreet access to the ballroom's audiovisual systems. Every document, transaction, and link was compiled into an airtight presentation. While he built the platform, Grace helped me build the poise. We practiced my delivery, my composure, how to speak truth without blinking, how to take back the narrative. The night of reckoning was coming. And this time, I wouldn't be wearing shame. I'd be wearing power. Anticipating my parents' next moves, I trained harder than I ever had, not for a career, but for emotional survival. They'll try to discredit you emotionally first, Grace warned during one of our simulation sessions. They'll paint you as unstable, ungrateful, even delusional. You must remain precise, grounded, factual. James Wilson, Aurora's head of security, spent hours teaching me how to recognize conversational manipulation, how to hold my ground when my mother interrupted to throw me off balance, how to neutralize father's inevitable appeals to his heart condition. We rehearsed responses for every angle. While our tactical prep advanced quickly, my internal transformation bloomed more slowly. When Mason handed me his black card to buy a gala dress, he offered no conditions. Choose whatever makes you feel powerful. I bypassed the designer boutiques that had once clamored for my presence and walked instead into the atelier of Olivia Chin, a rising designer who had once called me a muse, and one of the few who hadn't disappeared after my scandal. Adriana, she cried, pulling me into a hug. I've tried reaching you for months. Your mom's assistant said you weren't available. And just like that, another layer of their manipulation surfaced, cutting me off from allies. Olivia designed a deep crimson gown with sharp architectural lines, elegant but commanding. This isn't just a dress, she said during the final fitting. It's armor. 2 weeks before the gala, Mason suggested reconnecting with Kayla. She watches you more than you realize, he said. She visits your old boutique location once a month. Like she's honoring what you lost. I invited her to coffee-neutral territory. She arrived in her Thompson-approved outfit, looking polished, but worn thin. Mom's been impossible since you left, she whispered. She's redirected all her energy at me. She replaced my wardrobe last week, said I was becoming eccentric. I hesitated, then gently offered, Kayla, there's something you should know about the boutique. She cut me off, her eyes already glistening. That Mom and Dad set you up. I've suspected for a while. Shock flashed across my face. She nodded. I overheard Dad arguing with William about payment to that Collins woman. Then I found old photos of her, different names, different hair in the charity files. I didn't know how to reach you. Mom screens my calls, and you were already married. For the next hour, we built her role into the planet, active participation, too risky but a witness. Someone who could observe, verify, and corroborate. The night before the gala, Mason and I walked through the final run. Slides, backups, timed cues, escape plans. Are you absolutely sure? He asked, watching me closely. Once this starts, there's no going back. Your relationship with them may not survive. I took a breath, slow and steady. What relationship? Control, guilt, performance. That's not love. I'd rather have no relationship than a false one. He nodded. Then he reached for my hand. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know something. What started as business for me became something far more real. You've shown more strength and honesty than anyone I've ever known. In our shared bed, no longer twin beds pushed together, but one we chose together, I whispered. Tomorrow, we take back the story, and we start writing a new one. No worse, the Four Seasons ballroom sparkled. Mother's aesthetic fingerprints were everywhere. Towering white orchids, mirrored installations, gold-trimmed menus, framed photos celebrated their 35-year climb to social royalty. Mason and I arrived precisely 15 minutes late, stepping out of his sleek Bentley. My crimson gown rippled like a declaration among a sea of safe black and navy dresses. Mason, in a tuxedo cut with ruthless precision, exuded composed power. Mother spotted us immediately. Her smile faltered, ever so slightly, as she took in the unapproved dress and unexpected confidence. Adriana, Mason, she said coolly. How striking you look tonight. Congratulations on 35 years, Mason replied smoothly, handing her an envelope. We've made a donation to the Children's Hospital in your honor. Her brow lifted as she saw the amount through the envelope window. How generous. Your consulting must be going exceptionally well. Let's just say I've found my niche, he replied, voice carefully neutral. Father narrowed his eyes, finally noticing the watch, the cut of the suit, the confidence he'd dismissed. Thompson Enterprises must be paying junior staff well, he muttered. Actually, Raymond, Mason said, using his first name deliberately, I've found a position that better suits my skill set. Before Father could respond, Mother inserted herself. Go, circulate, dears. Everyone's eager to see how you're adapting. As they melted into the crowd, Mason whispered, "Incoming Society Patrol. Judgment in 3, 2, 1. Eleanor Whitfield materialized, glittering like a human chandelier. "Adriana, darling, how brave to wear such a bold color. And, Mason, what a transformation. Dressing for success, are we?" I smiled sweetly. "Actually, Eleanor, Mason's been teaching me the difference between real success and just appearances. It's been very educational." We made our way through the room. Mason introduced me to a few colleagues, all Aurora executives. Their deference toward me made the Thompson elite pause, reassess. "Adriana's insight into market behavior has been a huge asset," Mason told a stunned bank chairman. "Her analysis led to one of our most successful moves this quarter." And then I saw her, Rebecca Collins, chatting with Mother, laughing as if nothing had happened. Her presence was a calculated jab meant to rattle me. Instead, it fueled me. I approached calmly. "Rebecca, what a surprise." She blinked, off guard. "Adriana, I heard you'd stepped back from fashion." "Just temporarily," I said, voice steady. "I've been quite busy, helping investigate financial misconduct in the fashion sector." Her smile stiffened, her eyes dropped first. I didn't flinch. This wasn't revenge. This was reclaiming the truth in public, in real time, and we weren't done yet. The real reveal was still ahead, and the microphone was almost mine. Validity and high potential for long-term profitability. This, I said clearly, was not the failure of an inexperienced girl with too much ambition. This was the calculated dismantling of her independence by those who feared what she might achieve without their control. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The weight of truths, backed by evidence, delivered with calm precision, cracked the polished surface of the Thompson illusion. "I stand here tonight," I continued, scanning the room, "not to shame my family, but to free myself from their narrative. For years, I was taught to conflate obedience with loyalty, image with integrity. But silence is not loyalty, and complicity is not respect." I paused, meeting Kayla's tear-filled gaze near the back of the ballroom. "The Thompson legacy will continue, I'm sure. But I will not be part of it, not like this. I am reclaiming my name, my voice, and the life that was nearly erased by the people who should have protected it." Mother, standing stiffly at the edge of the stage, looked pale and furious. Father's face had turned a shade of crimson that seemed more from rage than cardiac concern. Beside me, Mason placed a steady hand on my back, not guiding, not claiming, just grounding. "And finally," I said, soft but unwavering, "to those of you who looked away when the scandal broke, who whispered behind fans and wine glasses, who accepted the easy version of the story, thank you. Your absence revealed the strength of those who remained, and your judgment fueled the resilience that brought me here tonight." A beat of silence. Then another. Then Kayla stood and began to clap. Grace followed. Then Olivia. Then a wave of applause, cautious at first, but building as more guests rose, some with confusion, some with genuine recognition. Even the most jaded among them couldn't ignore the elegance of the truth, now unfolding in full view. The moment didn't fix everything. It didn't erase betrayal or pain. But it split the facade cleanly into and let the truth breathe. Later that night, as the ballroom emptied and Mother's empire trembled under the weight of its own hypocrisy, Mason and I stood in the now dim space, watching crews begin to dismantle the decor. "You did it," he said, voice low. "We did it," I replied. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of one I'd write myself, without permission, without apology. And this time, the narrative belonged on any pedestal. During the reception, Mother approached me, expression unreadable. "The ceremony was tasteful," she said. "Thank you for coming," I replied. Not cold, just honest. "It matters." Father spoke more to Mason this time, about actual business. He asked questions, seemed engaged. It wasn't reconciliation, but maybe it was something realer than anything that had come before. A year after the gala that appended our lives, Mason and I marked our own anniversary quietly, just the two of us, a simple meal and private words. "I never thought happiness would be part of this," I admitted. "I hoped we'd survive, maybe get along. But this I planned for efficiency." Mason replied with a quiet smile. "I didn't expect to need anyone, or let myself be known." The little apartment where it all began. It became Kayla's, a wedding gift from us, her space to rewrite her own future outside the boundaries of Thompson legacy. The boutique thrived, growing into something larger than me. We launched a designer incubator to support emerging talent with funding and mentorship. We didn't just sell fashion, we cultivated vision, resilience, truth. As for my parents, our relationship settled into something careful, not estranged, not performative, just limited by what they could offer and what I was willing to accept. It was no longer about reclaiming their approval. It was about maintaining my peace. The woman who once believed her worth was tied to obedience, who entered an arranged marriage as penance for ambition, had learned something different. True strength doesn't come from keeping up appearances. It comes from looking yourself in the mirror and refusing to be ashamed of what you see. My parents arranged a marriage to humble me and, in doing so, introduced me to the one person who saw past the performance and loved what he saw. The man they chose to keep me small became my greatest advocate. The modest life they imposed taught me that real value can't be measured by wealth or reputation. Maybe that's the real story here at the lesson worth sharing. Sometimes, the very circumstances meant to break us become the foundation of who we're truly meant to become. Have you ever found strength in what felt like your lowest moment? Has someone's attempt to control your life ended up unlocking your freedom? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if this journey toward truth, resilience, and transformation resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me for more stories about rising from the ashes. Thank you for being part of this. Wherever you are, may you find the strength to live your own truth, however unexpected its form.